Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of my favourite people and some of the world's most interesting folk. And we've got a really talented guy for you today. Michael Grandinetti is, without question, one of the world's leading illusionists. He's a master of magic and he's about to launch a brand new TV series. And he joins us on the line now from LA. How are you?
Alex, I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, listen, it's lovely to talk to you. And I'm a big fan of the magicians, as you well know. I make it my place whenever I go to Vegas to see all the shows. It's cool again. I think people like Chris Angel have really helped to make it cool, to make it fashionable, and to make it interesting. It's no longer just pulling a rabbit out of the hat, is it?
No, and I think, there is many different styles of performer that there really is something for everybody. But at the end of the day, I think people love to be amazed. So, magic certainly does that.
You've done it on a big scale, which so many of you have. You've performed in huge stadiums, arenas, casinos, you do theatres. You tour the world, basically, putting on this great big magic show. How do you get started? How do you go from doing card tricks to getting £1 million illusion?
I'm one of the really lucky guys who found what he wanted to do in life very early on. I got a magic set for Christmas when I was 5, and from that point on, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. How many people get to say, they have that figured out at 5 years old? But what that it gave me a really nice head start to learn the foundation of magic and to build and to take the proper steps so that by the time I was a teenager, by the time I was 16, I was putting larger illusions in the show. And my goal was always to go a step beyond what people my own age were doing. When I was 16, I never wanted to, look like a 16-year-old magician. And even to this day, with our illusions, we always try to make it a step beyond what people were doing. So, it's quite a process, but I'm glad I started, early on.
Is it a talent or is it something anyone can do and your talent is in your showmanship? Because it really is, let's face it, just the same few tricks done in many different ways. It's the way you put it across that makes you an exceptional magician, isn't it?
Well, here's the thing. You could give, I truly believe, 10 different magicians the same piece of magic to perform, and you're going to see that piece of magic perform 10 different ways. And you hit the nail on the head when you said showmanship. I think that's the key. I think the key to making magic successful is, it has to be a great illusion, but at the end of the day, the audience has to love, really connect with, and I think relate to, in some way, the person who is performing it. That's essential.
When I see certain magicians, you know who I'm talking about, do some magic tricks, there's a lot of pointing and a lot of smoke and mirrors and a lot of pouting. Is that something you try and avoid? Because that has sort of dated a bit now, hasn't it? People aren't really that into seeing people just waving hands and expect a clap at the end of it.
Yeah, I don't think it should ever be waving hands and doing anything that is, doesn't look right. I think there is certainly room, especially when you're doing the large illusions, there's room for theatricality. You want the right music, you want the right lighting. I think choreography adds a great deal. But I think all the pieces have to work together in the right way, and they have to be staged, professionally. And, magic is many, many pieces that have to fit together to create the proper whole. So I think when it's done right, it works. But when it's, to your point, when it's not done right, it really stands out.
And how does it feel when you do those big arenas? It's the nearest thing to rock and roll you're going to get in show business. As you say, you're very lucky to have a light show. You can use any music you want. Is it the coolest feeling in the world?
It's incredible. I have to tell you, when we do the stadium shows, and we've done several of them now, one of the pieces that I always do in the stadiums is I levitate in the air 10 feet right up in the center of the stadium. And for me, I'll tell you what, it's like you're getting a view of the stadium that nobody ever gets. How many people get to see a stadium from the center and 10 feet elevated above the field? So, it's amazing. And me and I'm sure I speak for my entire team of people when I say we've never lost that sense of, wow, when you take the field, when you walk out into a stadium, in front of 70,000 people, it's the most incredible feeling in the world. I would wish that feeling for everybody. They don't have to do magic and have to do a stadium full of people, but that sense of just total, love of what you do and total excitement for what you do. I would wish that for everybody.
What's your take on the plagiarism of magic? Because, as I said earlier, there aren't that many illusions. It's just the same thing done in many different ways. One guy who's always impressed me is Chris Angel, but I seem to spend my life defending him to other magicians who are very bitter about his success. I can't understand it, because if he's bringing people to magic, surely that's got to be a good thing. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think anytime there's visibility for magic, I think that is a good thing. But I also think that, look, there's never going to be there's two directions to this question could go in. I think any performer is always going to have their audience, and you're never going to really hit everybody in the entire world. But I also think that when it comes to magic, to put integrity of the magic, it has to be presented in a certain way. Magic is an art form that, especially when you're doing it on television or nowadays all the platforms online that you're doing it on, it needs to be done so that it conveys that nothing is being taken advantage of as far as technology. What you're seeing on television, what you're seeing online is the exact same thing that you would see live. And when we do our television productions, I've been very careful and very specific that we utilize television to really enhance the magic, show that we are, doing everything fair above board. And I think that's the key. But a magician should never, ever take from another magician. I think there are so many, I think we haven't even scratched the surface of what's possible to do with magic. But there's certainly a number of ideas out there. So, that I stand very firm on.
You see, I find that fascinating, because as a guy who's every year, I'm just next week about to go back to Vegas, and I'll probably see 7 or 8 magicians. It seems like I see mostly the same show 4 or 5 or 6 times. It's interesting, your perspective, that there are infinite opportunities to create new illusions. You really believe that?
Well, think of it this way. Let's look at it from a musical standpoint. There are 8 notes, on a keyboard and in a musical scale. There are 8 notes.
Yes.
And think of how many songs have been created over hundreds of years, and how many pieces of music will be created over the next hundreds of years with those 8 notes, right?
Yeah.
So in magic, there are basically, 7 or 8 basic principles of magic. And just in the same way, it's how you combine the principles to create, a unique piece with it. And I think that, there are certainly illusions that have become standards. Just like in music, there are songs that have become standards. But I think, as a performer, I think for me, one of the most satisfying things is to try and break away from the standards and do things that are unique to, our show. To me, that is where I get the most joy.
I've been watching clips of you on the telly, and again, there's a certain magnetism to your performance, and that, I think, is the key to your success. I go and see the Magic Show in Blackpool every year, which basically has the best magicians from the UK and around the world turn up at the Blackpool Theatre, and there they sort of tout their wares and sell their tricks and then perform them at the end of the weekend. And it seems to me that you've got to have a big personality. If we look at all the people who have made it in magic big time, David Blaine, over here we've got Dynamo, Chris Angel, all these people are very distinctive, and you've certainly got that. How hard do you have to work on that? Is that really you, or is that an image? Are you an actor being a magician? What are you?
That's a great question. Well, me personally, I am me. If you came to see my show, the exact person you hear on this phone is the exact person that you're going to get on stage. I don't know how to be any other way. And for me, it's about building that relationship with the audience so that, for example, when we do something dangerous in the show, the audience really cares. If I'm escaping from between 2 walls of steel spikes that are on fire, I really want the audience to care that I don't get hurt and, that something bad doesn't happen to me. So for me, the way to do that is being sincere and really showing who I am as a person. Now, that being said, there are a lot of performers in different fields, both music and magic and a lot of different art forms, who convey a character. And it works for them, and they do that very, very well. But for me, I think I really want the audience to walk away feeling, after 90 minutes, that they know me personally.
And again, with your style, I mean, you've worked with so many people, worked on TV shows. We're going to get to your new TV show in a moment, but it's interesting how people seem to want to work with you. You've appeared with David Blaine and people like that. Is that great affirmation as to your talent as a magician?
When you think of illusions, the image that somebody gets is larger scale effects, making large objects disappear or vanish, or appear or float in the air. But I do think that an illusionist is a very specialized brand of magic where it is combining all the theatrical elements, like I mentioned earlier, the choreography, the lighting, the staging, the music, all those pieces an illusionist takes and puts together to create kind of a large-scale theatrical experience featuring magic on stage. It's like creating a little play or a little movie on stage. I think that's the best way to define an illusionist. An illusionist does magic, but I think an illusionist is more of a branch of the magic arts where the performer does these more elaborate theatrical pieces.
And again, these tricks can go wrong. I'm always amazed when people say, oh, it's only magic. Yeah, but if you've got a saw going around and you stick your arm in it, it's going to be chopped off, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there are things that can go wrong all the time. And to your point, some of them are very dangerous. That spike escape that I mentioned that we do in our show, I mean, those spikes are real. They're not, I mean, it's not trick spikes. It is really foot-long, razor-sharp metal spikes, and there's over 60 of them on both sides of me. And it's just, if something goes wrong, if I'm a foot off and out of direction from where I'm standing or what I'm doing, it could be catastrophic. So, yeah, the danger's real.
And there's a thing I've got to talk to you about, Michael, and I don't really know how to approach this because I'm a deeply unattractive man, as you're well aware. Do you have to be a bit sexy to be a successful magician? Because I look at your pictures and the ladies do find you a nice bit of trouser.
Well, I haven't ever had it put in that way before, but, thank you.
I have a way with words, don't I? Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think as long as you can relate to the audience can relate to you, I think they will see past. I think that's the biggest asset that any performer can have. No, I think you're very kind of, I appreciate, but I think at the end of the day, it's about, again, building that connection with the audience and being somebody that they care about and want to watch. That's it. That's the key.
But it does help if they kind of like what they're looking at, opposed to being repulsed and wanting to vomit in the nearest bucket.
Well, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
But
what's life like on the road? The other thing I feel about you guys is you work so hard, and I don't think people fully appreciate how challenging it is to tour the world continually, be on the road 200, 300 days a year and have to stay in stinking hotels to do 45 minutes on stage. How do you cope with that? I find that fascinating.
It's a lot of work. We just did a series of halftime shows around the country for basketball games, for NBA games, and for college basketball games. And those halftime shows are 6 minutes. They're 6 minutes long. But to do those 6 minutes, we are flying times for 6 or 7 hours and setting up for 8 or 9 hours, and then the crew is tearing down for 8 or 9 hours, and you're flying for 6 or 7 hours, and all for 6 minutes. But I'll tell you, when you're doing those 6 minutes and the audience is there with you and they're enjoying it, man, it's worth all of it. It's a ton of work. And when we're not touring, we work in 17-hour days, rehearsing, developing new illusions, figuring out places to take magic. It's not a job. It's not a 9 to 5. It is literally it's a 7-day-a-week lifestyle. But I wouldn't trade it.
There's some great 6-minute clips on YouTube of you doing your magic brilliantly. Is there no way they could just play your YouTube clips and save the time and money and effort?
Well, magic is a live medium. I think, it certainly works on television extremely well when it's done right. It certainly works online extremely well when it's done right. But to see it live, to literally be in that stadium or in that theater and see somebody float, nothing beats that. Nothing beats that experience. And to this day, I got to tell you, I've been doing magic for so long. I still love watching magic as much as I did when I was a kid. So I think there's just something about seeing magic live that you just can't duplicate. You can't.
I love it. And there's no feeling like when it goes right. If I'm sat in the audience and I'm asking myself, how does he do that 5 or 10 times a show? You've done your job, haven't you?
Oh, absolutely. That's what you want. You want the audience to, it's like when they go to a movie, the special effects aren't real, but you want to suspend that, as they say, suspend the disbelief and let yourself go. And just sit there and enjoy the magic and be fully amazed by it. If you think about it, what other art form can you sit in the theater and watch and experience and get that feeling of amazement and get that feeling of how is that done? How did they do that? You really can't. Magic is very unique in that it gives the audience that very rare emotion. Yeah. So if the audience is sitting there questioning and going, I just don't understand how they're doing it, I'm completely amazed. Yes, the magician has done his job, and that's exactly what you want. I watch people walk into a theater at the end of a long day of work. They've just worked for 8 hours, and they're stressed, and they come in, and, the goal is that by intermission or by the end of that show, they're walking out smiling because they've been totally uplifted by that feeling of just complete amazement.
I think I have the mental age of a 14-year-old because the first time I saw O by Cirque du Soleil and also Carr and David Copperfield and Chris Angel and Lance Burton, all these shows, I wish I could see them again for the first time because there's nothing more thrilling for a person to sit in a theatre and feel like that. I hope to see you very, very soon live because I know that you'll do the same. To put on a production, I don't think people can underestimate how much time and effort goes into that. And of course, that leads me then to the TV show where once it's out there, it can't really be done again. The CW have commissioned this brand new show that airs in August called Masters of Illusions, and you've taken it again to another level. You're back on the TV. Tell us about the show.
Well, I'm really excited for the show. We taped several different episodes and several different illusions for it, and I really wanted to make it special for television. I wanted the home viewer to literally be able to see things that they wouldn't even see. It had been there for the live taping. So one of the things that we did was we had a roving cameraman do 360-degree shots around several of our illusions. So the audience at home can literally see the illusions from around and behind and know that they're getting a full bird's-eye view of the magic. In the show, and I'm really excited about the illusions that we did several of our original pieces. One of the pieces that I do is a piece that they call Walking Through Steel, where we have a 7-foot-tall, 4-foot-wide, 1-inch thick plate of steel. It's this giant, heavy piece of steel that has to be brought to the stage on this big rolling cart. And we get the audience up to examine it. And we actually had Ace Young from Broadway and American Idol in the show come up, and he was the celebrity who examined the wall and made sure there were no holes and no openings. And we see, the wall gets lifted up into this frame, and I try and melt my body right through the center of it. And it's a piece that it's one of my favorites that we do. I also do a piece where I levitate 10 feet into the air, and we do it right at the front of the stage, literally, so the audience can see there's nothing above, there's nothing at the side. They can see behind me. Again, we do that 360-degree camera shot.
Michael, there's nobody listening to this. How do you do it? Just tell us. Come on.
It is magic. No, you know what? I would never want to ruin the magic for you. I wish I could go to a magic show and not analyze it like a magician. Yeah. I wish I could watch it and just be amazed. But I would never want to take away from somebody. Absolutely not.
I think it's so inspired and so brilliant, and I'll never stop loving magic. I always ask myself, though, as a businessman, how do you make any money? Because touring these shows is notoriously expensive because everything's so damn big and complicated, and you need help with it, so you've got to hire people. Have you made any money out of this career?
Well, it's about staying busy, and it's about, finding ways to take magic to many places and doing, it's as in any other, business, it's about making all the pieces, work. Because I have some friends who are stand-up comedians, and when they go to do shows, they basically, they're shows themselves. They just, hop on a plane and they go and they do it. We have, 15,000 pounds of equipment and 10 people and, 10 hours of setup, sometimes 2 days of setup, depending on, which large-scale illusions we take on the road at that point. But it's making all the pieces literally work, and, but it's a process. And it's a process that you have to work on. You definitely don't start at that point. You start small and then you build. But it's a process.
Listen, we need you to come over here to England to show us what you do. I'm hopefully going to catch up with you in America very soon. And I'm going to send your email on to a man who does what we call the Raw Variety Performance in December, where selected acts from around the world get to perform for the Queen. And it's a great way of being seen, and you'd be perfect for it. So let's get you on that. How about that?
I would love it. I would absolutely love to come over there. It would be an honor for me. So thank you for that.
Listen, great to talk to you. Michael's brand new show airs on CW, which is Masters of Illusion. It begins on August 1st at 8 o'clock. And really lovely to talk to you. Michael Grandinetti is the big star of magic, and you can find him online. Just Google him on YouTube or his website, and you can find out all his tour information and also about this brand new program, Masters of Illusions. Michael, really nice to talk to you.
Alex, thank you so much. The time just disappeared like nothing. It was great talking with you.